to make Anambra shine. With our sweat and blood.
Amid the worsening economic situation in the country and protests by organized labor groups against hardship, high inflation rate, unemployment and insecurity, there are urgent calls for stringent fiscal management by all levels of government in Nigeria. Here on Solution Footprints from Anambra State, the light of the nation, the unprecedented and revolutionary strides of Professor Chukwuma Soludo is on the spotlight. I am Ifi Aronwo-Okafo. The future of Anambra State seemed bleak when Professor Chukwuma Soludo came to power on March 17, 2022. The state was in a financial crisis and needed an immediate overhaul. To save the state from further financial decline and activate sustainable economic recovery, Professor Chukwuma Soludo came with a pedigree as a world-renowned economist, a former chief economic advisor, and a former governor of the Apex Bank, the Central Bank of Nigeria. Professor Soludo declared a disruptive change and activated a model for fiscal discipline and prudent management of the state's resources. On this edition of Solution Footprints, we'll see how Professor Chukwuma Soludo deployed the solution template for fiscal discipline and prudent management of Anambra State's resources. Watch this.
The change of administration in Anambra State on March 17, 2022 ushered in the administration of Professor Chukwuma Charles Soludo, CFR. Professor Soludo, via a popular demand by Ndi Anambra, won the governorship election by a landslide to emerge as the 5th democratically elected governor of Anambra State.
I see and feel all the humongous challenges. I know the lean financial base of our state. I know the limitations imposed upon a sub-national state, such as Anambra, by the peculiar structure of our federation. But ladies and gentlemen, here is my promise. I will give it my all. I will work hard, very hard every day with you to make Anambra proud. Every kobo of your tax money will be deployed to provide you maximum value.
Upon assumption of office in 2022, Governor Soludo, in his first official interview granted to a national television, revealed that he met just about 100 million naira in the state's account, with debt running into billions, owed to multiple vendors who had either delivered a project for the state or were at different stages of completion. The new administration therefore met a state that was not fiscally sustainable. Clearly, Anambra State was in the midst of a financial crisis, mainly as a result of lack of good fiscal management and financial discipline. Put appropriately, the state was almost at the state of bankruptcy because it could barely meet some of its financial obligations. For instance, the state could not pay its pension and gratuity liabilities to retired civil servants. At the time Governor Soludo's administration came into office, the pension and gratuity liabilities for both state and local governments were at about 20 billion naira, which accumulated from 2018. In short, the state could hardly pay her bills. Also, the cost of governance was high. Governor Soludo met some contracts which in his administration's assessment were overbloated and could not sustain them as they could not pass the value for money test.
I think his approach to prudent management of the scarce resources when he took over the government is very much encouraging. I give it to him because initially the problem we're having in the state in terms of both IGL and maybe the FAC, which to every reasonable standard is quite not enough to manage a state. But he was able to reduce the cost of governance in terms of first, the block of the leakages. And by doing that, and making his team understand that this change, not just for him, but for the Anambra. And that's why even the legislature quietly adjusted to a new government that thinks more about the people. And that is, to a larger extent, the way of thinking, the mindset of Anambra geared towards a drastic change in terms of managing the resources.
For a man who believes in accountability, due process, and prudent financial management, Governor Soludo had to terminate or review some of the contracts he met on ground that were of little or no value to the development of the state. For example, at inception of the administration, it was costing the state 137 million naira to clean government offices monthly. To Governor Soludo, this was humongous and unacceptable.
I think he's just around living out the mantra we hold so dearly in this government, doing more with less. It's actually something that resonates with everybody in this government. So if we could do it for less, why go for more? So that was actually in implementing of that, because they were using 137 million naira to clean government offices a month. And of course, anybody that hears that is wondering how, but that was being done. Well, he set up a committee and actually told people to sit down and think about how. He gave the option of if there's nothing done to it, he was going to recruit people to do the work himself. And of course, people sat down and they were able to bring it down from 137 to 11 million. And that's actually what this government is about. There have been instances when you bring a particular cost, he tells you to please go back and look at it again. And perhaps because everybody understands that we could do more with less money, as efficient as possible, to ensure that we deliver value from the Anambra.
A similar assessment was done on all other ongoing contracts, and millions of naira were equally saved. Not done yet, Governor Chukwuma Charles Soludo went further to propose a series of spending cuts that also drastically reduced the state's budget deficit. However, some of these cost-saving cuts were met with fierce opposition from groups who argued that it would result in reduced services. Nevertheless, Governor Soludo stood firm, arguing that these sacrifices were necessary to ensure the state's long-term financial stability. It is also instructive to note that the administration came in with the idea of increasing the state's internal revenue drive, considering the economic size of the state, by centralizing payment gateways and doing away with cash-based revenue generation, which gave way to fraud and embezzlement. This was to enable the state embark on a robust infrastructural development, which is one of the major agenda of his administration.
And one of the things the governor charged the House of Assembly is to help to plug IGR leakages in Anambra State. Responding to that, the Speaker immediately consulted a committee to plug IGR leakages in Anambra State, and I am part of that committee, and we've been doing well. So the good thing is that Soludo has maximized use of internally generated revenue in Anambra State. He has tried to plug leakages. He has made sure that for every 10 kobo spent or every kobo spent, there is value for it.
Governor Soludo revised the 2022 budget from a total of 141.9 billion naira to 169.6 billion naira, indicating an increase of about 19.5%. The government's spending is strictly in line with the budget. All memos are written with the relevant budget code, and the balanced amount on the code is considered before approval.
So what we are saying in this government is that cheap and cheerful. So anything that is not necessary is cut out of the expenditure. I think first thing to mention is how diligent we are with implementing the budget. In Anambra State, I would say that budget is the mode. We actually use the budget 100%. At the point of preparing the budget, we are clear on what projects that need to be delivered to Anambra. So it's not just having a budget that is big without actual deliverable. We try to call out some specific projects that the budget would deliver in the year. Once we identify the project, then we can then decide to see what else is left and what other things. So every budget has key deliverables, and that's how budget is done. And no expenditure goes outside of the budget. The governor will ask you, where is the code? right? Where's the job code for this expenditure? So that means that already kind of ensures that we plan and implement the plan. So we are coordinated like that.
To drive the state to a more sustainable path, Governor Soludo became deliberate about his fiscal management style. Government appointees and civil servants knew that they were on a different ride and that Anambra was on the verge of a disruptive change that would lead to an upwards trajectory. Funds are allocated based on specific programs the government plans to execute in the year, drawn from the state's 3 working documents: the People's Manifesto, Vision 2070, and Combined Transition Report. Recently, the state, under Governor Soludo, invested in the automation of budget and warranting systems. This is to ensure that there is sufficient control around the budget to ensure strict compliance and improve fiscal transparency and reporting. A team under the governor's office verifies this before the memo is passed on to the governor for his attention. All capital expenditures above 30 million naira go to the Bureau of Public Procurement for the state's approved procurement process and value for money assessment before they come to Anambra State Executive Council (ANSEC) for consideration. Funds below 30 million naira still go to BPP for review and a certificate of no objection is issued. There is a Strategy Execution and Evaluation C office under the Governor's office that follows through to ensure that the project or program is delivered to specification. According to Governor Soludo, every expenditure of the government must go through a litmus test by asking these 2 valid questions.
1. If this is my hard-earned money from work and profit, can I spend it this way? 2. Is this the best way to spend the taxes and levies collected from the poor traders and Okada riders? If I cannot answer yes to both questions, then I will hesitate to deploy your money.
This has helped the Soludo government to significantly reduce the cost of governance, focusing on tangible deliverables that Anambra can see and feel.
Amazing! We've seen how the revolution began. Next, let's see how the revolution has progressed, even without borrowing a dime, despite the approval by the State House of Assembly to borrow 100 billion naira at the inception of this government. 2 years down the line, Professor Chukwuma Charles Soludo is yet to borrow. And yet, amazingly, he's recorded unprecedented multifaceted development in Anambra State. And the Anambra are beginning to reap the benefits of having a prudent manager of state resources at the helm of affairs. Let's see more.
In 2023, the capital expenditure accounted for 63% of the budget, while in 2024, it accounted for 77% of the budget. In 2023, the state spent 65% of its total expenditure on capital projects, of which 67% was on road construction. In the same year, other infrastructure investments were the advanced work on the new government house, the construction of Solution Phone City, the building of 5 general hospitals, the conversion of 25,000 streetlights to solar, the construction of new stadium, and the provision of a massive water project in the major cities, among others.
The governor is simply fantastic and prudent in financial management. Look at the huge construction site, the roads, the employment of teachers everywhere. So he's trying. It is only prudent financial manager that can achieve this. You see, you go to Onisha, you see roads. You go to Oka, you see roads. You go to Aguaka, look at this one from Abattoir to Oka to Orumba North. That one stopped at Ufuma. From Oka here to Ufuma, just 18 minutes. Some people will do it for 15 minutes. Are you talking from Amansi to Obo Family? Now, you see, this is money internally generated and the meager resource coming from the federal government, it will only take a man that is financially prudent to do that.
All these achievements the government has recorded so far is achieved without borrowing.
Well, ideally, our people do not take pride in borrowing naturally. Where you can help yourself, where you can solve your problems, you don't need to borrow. So to hear that His Excellency, our dear own prof, our own governor has not borrowed is a thing of joy. We encourage him to continue to do his best, to use the local resources to do the services he has accepted to do. We also use the opportunity to encourage our people to make our own contribution, pay our taxes, pay our rates, so as to assist the government to execute the projects planned for our own good.
Because they have vision and passion. You know, when you have passion for a state, God will help you to translate that passion to physical investment and things that will change the lives of people. And that is what His Excellency Professor Soludo and his deputy, they are very eager, and God will help them to do it.
Interestingly, it will be recalled that in 2022, the media was awash with the news that the Anambra State House of Assembly has approved a 100 billion naira loan proposal submitted by the state government. While this is true, till date, the government has not accessed the loan despite multiple offers from financial institutions.
Why I'm smiling is that I personally moved the motion to allow Mr. Governor or the executive to borrow 100 billion. And honestly speaking, you know, I'm a very prudent person, and I'm always believe in standard. That I think we engage the Commissioner for Finance, the former Commissioner for Finance, and the Commissioner for Budget, Chiamaka, and we insisted because there are two options: either to borrow from consolidated fund of the CBN or to borrow from a commercial outlet. And if you borrow from commercial, I think the interest is high. Why the other sector from CBN is lower. But we insisted that what are you borrowing this money for? And we'll find out it's for infrastructural development. And I think we were specific. Tell us the route. And he gave us, I can't remember the number of routes, but I still have it in my one of my files. And after 6 months of that approval, I think he didn't borrow, you know, and being included, they were asking why, and he gave reasons.
And to my amazement, he answered that he must borrow money, whenever he sees the lending platform that will give him the least of the interest. That is one. Secondly, that he is not ready to borrow to consume. That he intends to borrow and reinvest in a bankable project that will repay the loan. In a nutshell, this tells you whom the governor is. Most governors that were sworn in May last year, most of them have borrowed various sums of money ranging into hundreds of billions of naira. But this man, 2 years already in the office, is yet to borrow a dime. That is one striking thing about Mr. Governor that I personally see as something that is not cannot be obtained everywhere. I also asked him, since you've not borrowed, which magic are you performing? How have you been getting all these monies with which you use to do all the works that you are doing? The roads, almost 400 kilometers, half of it is almost completed. The teachers, civil servants, paying their salaries regularly. Even the backlog of pension, gratuities and pensions left by the previous administration, he's gradually deleting them from the list. He came in, employed 5,000 teachers. That was what he used for testing the microphone. He employed 5,000 teachers immediately on assuming office. which is unprecedented. It has never been heard of in the history of this country. What most governors do, or what they did in the past, was to employ at the twilight of their tenure. But this man, he came in and employed 5,000. And presently, he's still employing additional 3,000. The new government house that was left moribund for decades, he just came in and gave life back to it. Look at our own environment. I have been in this house, this is my 5th year. I was here in the 7th Assembly, back here in the 8th Assembly. I know how it used to be. Within a space of 6 months, turnaround maintenance. You see the exterior of this house, it became at least to an extent worthy of being a House of Assembly of a state. And these galvanizing funds available, the scarce resources available to the state is what he is using to achieve the much. So I think Mr. Governor is doing a lot with almost nothing. The prudent management of resources by Mr. Governor cannot be overemphasized.
The plan is to make Anambra one of the most financially viable states in the country before the end of his tenure. In the immediate, the governor is on course, striving to improve IGR's position through restructuring the revenue landscape to cover at least the state's recurrent cost, while it continued to drive development in the state on the other hand. Currently, Anambra State is probably one of the locations in the world with the least tax revenue as a proportion of income, that is 0.9%. Therefore, the plan is to gradually raise the state IGR with a target of 3 to 5% of GDP over the medium term. His administration is simplifying and harmonizing taxes to minimize multiple taxation, as well as eliminating or reducing taxes for the poorest segments of society.
About 2 years ago, I've been in this business. Since this present government is in power, and I appreciate Governor Chukwuma Soludo for what he has been doing so far. For example, I could remember 2 years ago when I was applying aroma to Opuno or other places, the roads are not good. They are very, very bad, which causes me a lot of money in repairing my keke. But the roads now are being made properly well. They are all nice. And so far so good, I have not been experiencing difficulties in riding my keke and doing other things. And my keke now is in good condition, unlike before, which I always go to mechanic 2 to 3 times in a week.
To be honest, I've been in this business for 4 years now. So far, I can beat my heart and say that the Soludo government has been the best. First of all, in infrastructure, because there is no any developed state or developed nation that can do without a good road. What we used to experience here, 2020, 2021, 2022, was for me a hell. Simply because we can rarely operate 1 week successfully without going to the mechanic. That's because there's no road. But in Soludo's administration, I was surprised that before 1 year, like me personally, I calculate. So before 1 year, we saw that major roads that we tricyclists, most especially in the Oka here, apply, are not just under construction, but are completed within the short period of time. And then in terms of our tasking, we knew that before now, we used to experience a heavy kind of tasking in this state. We pay from monthly due, we pay union registration, we pay end of the year party, we pay the government IGR, we pay the union IGR, we pay a lot of things, bucket, emblem, and this thing was more than as in you will be working, but the money you are earning is going to somebody else. Now, you can just pay your task and go to anywhere you want to. Specifically, I thought it was only in Oka. I left Oka one day and went to Soludo. I came there, they said, where is your task? This thing. I gave them, they checked it, and I'm free to go. They allowed me go. I was like, this is not only here, okay, let me try another place, at least the most difficult place I've known, which is Onitsha. I went there, it was the same thing. I was like, this is really marvelous. And sincerely, we want to say thank you to the government of Anambra State.
Come to health insurance. I was in the hospital yesterday where I was registered as the health insurance participant at Rock Foundation. I was treated free of charge without any money. That's one of the benefits I'm enjoying. from Chukwuma Soludo. No other governor have done that. So we are paying the tax and we are seeing the benefits of the tax we are paying.
As a result of the fiscal strategies being adopted by the Governor Soludo-led government, has made the state secure first position in the southern state in the 2023 Ease of Doing Business ranking.
It is no longer business as usual with disruptive change on course in Anambra State. No wonder other state governments are beginning to emulate the solution template of prudent fiscal management of state resources. And just recently, Governor Chukwuma Soludo was appointed a member of the federal government's tripartite Economic Advisory Council. Obviously, this could be as a result of his antecedents and current accomplishments in prudent fiscal management, which he has brought to bear in Anambra State. Follow Solution Footprints on social media at Solution Footprints on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, and on X, former Twitter, at SolutionFP. I am Ife Aronwo-Kafo, and I'll see you on the next edition of Solution Footprints.
We believe in togetherness. We'll build a land of progress.